This is Webinar Wednesday e-demo on Hawkridge Systems Analysis Services. It's really going to be a general overview of some of the services that we offer and talk to you a little bit about things that we do here at Hawkridge to help people when they need to do analysis or simulations. So the agenda today, we'll go through some basic introductions, talk about why somebody might want to do analysis, why they might want to outsource things, the services we offer, how that really works here at Hawkridge, what things might work for you, and then just, in closing, maybe some contact information and also some information about some promotions and things that are going on right now. So we'll start off here. The guys that run this consulting division here are two people. One, the guy that you can hear right now, that's me, Jared Conway. I'm the Simulation Services Manager here at Hawkridge. Been around for about 8.5 years, mostly worked on the side of Cosmos and simulation. I've also partially ran tech support. I've done demonstrations. I've done training. I've done a little bit of everything around here. The other guy, the guy that does a lot of the work around here is Chris Ma. He's also in Mountain View here. He's been with us about 5.5 years. He has a master's in mechanical engineering from UCLA. Again, most of his time has been spent on SOLIDWORKS simulation, whether it's technical support, training, presentations, night schools, a little bit of everything. And again, the two of us really are the main piece of the analysis consulting services here at Hawkridge Systems. And just to kind of introduce our services, we'll go over this a little bit more in detail as we go through the presentation. But it's really an extension of what we've been doing for a long time, which is training on SOLIDWORKS simulation, technical support. Now we're adding the piece of being able to take simulations and run them for you. So that you can see the main ones there that we have for offer, analysis consulting, what we call one-on-one training or mentoring, custom training, really expanding on our standard training, and then general consulting, something that fits into many different categories. One of the things to think about when you're actually thinking about outsourcing and who you might want to work with is, what kind of expertise do they have? So one of the things that we do and bring to the table is we have a ton of experience with the SOLIDWORKS simulation tools. And again, we mentioned that there's myself and Chris in this analysis consulting group. We also have another 10 certified simulation engineers here at Hawkridge and another almost 40 of them that are mechanical engineers certified in SOLIDWORKS, and they have a varying degree of experience in different mechanical industries. Again, the tools and the services that we offer, we're flexible, we're efficient, we're there to really back up your engineering team when you need it, and we do these consulting services for all the SOLIDWORKS simulation products. So before we start talking about services or outsourcing, let's talk about the big piece here. Why do people want to do analysis? Well, the first one that comes to mind is you might want to use virtual simulation for problems that can't be calculated traditionally. We all know that we can go out, grab a cantilever beam, apply a force on it, and calculate how much it deflects. But what happens when that cantilever beam is a bridge with weldments and welds and bolts and a whole bunch of different things? It's not really easy to calculate. And that's where analysis comes in. It can really break those problems down and give you a much easier way to solve those problems. Second reason, we want to reduce the number of prototypes. When we do prototyping, we want to test the designs that we actually have in mind. But those prototypes can be expensive, and so can the physical tests. We've actually worked with a company that was designing security bollards, and each one of their physical tests required them to go out and buy a semi-truck, crash it into their bollard, and make sure it tested properly. Now, if they have 3 different designs, that means designing or having to test 3 different times, 3 different semis. That can get pretty expensive. SOLIDWORKS simulation, we were actually able to reduce it down to 2, and that means that we save them a whole bunch of money on the amount of prototypes that they have to do and the amount of physical testing that they have to build. Another point here for analysis is we can learn a lot more with virtual testing than we can with physical testing. There's a limitation to the number of strain gauges and thermocouples and sensors that you can apply inside of a physical test. In simulation, almost everywhere in the model can act like a sensor. So basically, you can get a lot more information out of the virtual test than you necessarily could with a physical test. And the last thing is, accelerating your product design cycle. We all know that we start with a prototype, we start with a design idea, we detail it out, we go and build a prototype, we do some physical testing. Well, if we have a problem, we got to go all the way back to the beginning in the preliminary stage and actually redesign it, remodel it, go back and redo those tests. So there's a lot of time and effort involved. Well, when we can come and bring simulation earlier in the design cycle, we can actually reduce the time that it takes us to actually solve and design a product. By doing that, we save time, we save effort. In the long run, we also save money. And again, for all these analyses that we're doing, we're all talking about the SOLIDWORKS simulation family of products. So trying to go over the different types of analyses that you can do with SOLIDWORKS simulation, let's talk about SOLIDWORKS Premium. So SOLIDWORKS Premium adds two types of simulation. One is static analysis. So this is linear static analysis, basically structural analysis. And the other piece we have is motion simulation, or kinematic rigid body motion simulation. Two really awesome tools, helps you solve a lot of different problems. When we move up to SOLIDWORKS Simulation Professional, we add a whole other suite of analysis tools. So the most common ones that we run into are people that want to do thermal analysis, convection, conduction, and radiation problems. We also have frequency and buckling. We also have drop tests, fatigue analysis, pressure vessel, and one of my favorites is optimization. Imagine if you had a bracket and you knew you wanted to make it lighter. You knew that you were going to put a hole in it, some shape. You didn't know exactly what that shape should be, how big it should be. Well, optimization can help you set some parameters, maximum stress, maximum deflection, and actually help you optimize that part really quickly. So it's a really nice tool inside SOLIDWORKS Simulation Professional. When we move up to SOLIDWORKS Simulation Premium, we start talking about some even more advanced analysis products. So we have nonlinear analysis for things like plastics or rubbers, things that deform a lot. We also have things like contact problems or problems that have a sequence involved with them. For example, maybe a shrink fit and then a torque. Something like nonlinear analysis can help us solve those problems. The other piece that's in there is composites, being able to handle layered components like carbon fibers or fiberglass layups. And then the four there about dynamic analysis, time history, harmonic, random vibration, and response spectrum. They're all different ways to solve problems that involve time. So things like shock loading or frequency sweeps or PSD curves, we can handle those in SOLIDWORKS Simulation Premium using the dynamic analysis side of things. We also have a couple other products that kind of sit on their own. We have flow simulation. It's a computational fluid dynamics program. Allows you to solve fluid flow problems, heat transfer problems, radiation problems. And it's got a couple extra modules on top of it to solve specific problems like electronics cooling problems and also HVAC type problems. Sustainability is a pretty awesome tool as well. Helps you look at your designs in general to see if the manufacturing processes that you're using, the materials that you're using, and your whole manufacturing process actually helps you design a sustainable product. And the last one on the list is something we got last year, which is SOLIDWORKS Plastics. Allows us to see how plastics flow inside molds, how much shrinkage, how much warpage might exist in them, and also other types of defects that might affect your final product that you want to prevent in the early design phase. So again, through our analysis consulting tool or services, we use all of these tools to help you solve your design challenges. So you might ask yourself, well, these guys at Hawk Ridge, they sell software. Why would I consider using them as an analysis services bureau rather than just buying the software and solving the problem myself? Well, I think this would actually be a really good class at university or in a business school, because I think there's a lot of factors involved in trying to determine whether you're going to buy the software and handle the problems in-house, or whether you're going to outsource them to somebody else. Some of the factors I can think about being involved are, do you have the time? Do you have the software? Do you have the hardware? And even things like, do I have the knowledge and training to use the software? Do I have the experience to solve the problem? What are all the factors involved in deciding whether I want to handle something in-house or outsource it? Well, when I think about this, I think it all ends up coming down to just time. In the end, if you have time, you can probably solve any problem yourself. So here, for example, maybe you have the software, but you haven't gone off and taken training. Well, if you have the time, you can go and take training. You can spend some time to get some experience and go off and solve that problem. But if that problem needs to be solved in 1 week, that's probably not going to end up happening. And again, it all comes back to time. Same thing with hardware. You could continue spending money on the fastest processor, the most RAM, the fastest hard drives to solve a problem quickly. But in the end, do you have enough time to solve that problem based on what you have right now? It all comes down to time. Well, that's where our analysis consulting services really come into play. It's a seamless extension to your engineering design team. We work with you guys directly. We understand what your problem is. We understand how the tools work. We understand what you need to help you move forward on your design problem. Our goal is really to find a solution, whether it's services, software, a combination of the two, to help you solve your problems and get you a solution to your problem. So let's talk about some of the services that we have available. The first one is the most common one I think that we kind of run into is people just have an analysis that they need run, and they don't have either the time, the software, or maybe the experience or the personnel to actually run that analysis. Well, they'll outsource those types of problems to us here at Hawk Ridge. It usually starts with kind of a discovery call. We talk about the problem. We talk about what your goals are, talk about what you need to help move forward, talk about the challenges that you have right now, and then we really develop a solution around that to figure out what the best thing is for you. It comes in a few different flavors. From my experience, a lot of people come here with one geometry. It's the final geometry. They have one loading condition that they need to test, and that's all we run. But there's other things people bring to us. Some people have some design changes in mind or design alternatives that they want to test, or maybe even conditions that they want to test. Maybe they want to test what happens at 10 pounds, 100 pounds, 1,000 pounds. We'll go through all those different conditions and provide you the results that you need. Another couple that really comes up is trend studies. Sometimes people just want to see what happens over a scope of a whole bunch of displacements or a whole bunch of stress values. And we just want, general ideas of what happens maybe on a couple different parameters, or maybe sometimes we want to just optimize on those parameters. Those are other ways that we can solve problems and help you guys. The other one that's pretty popular is our one-on-one training. And the best way to describe, I think, this is, when you come to our training classes, it's a really good introduction to how the software works. It shows you where in the interface to find your options, where to find all the different features, how to import your model, how to set up a mesh, how to set up the problems. It goes through a whole bunch of different types of simulation problems. Problem is, you get back to your desk and you say, well, which one of those problems really applies to what I do on a day-to-day basis? Sometimes that's where you get stuck. Well, really, that's where our one-on-one mentoring really fits into the play. Is we take your problem, we solve it just like we would in an analysis consulting project, and then we come back and teach you exactly how to solve that problem from beginning to end. Again, most of the time it starts off with one problem, but we want to talk about what other things you might do. So for example, you might start off with an electronics cooling problem and you say, well, I might want to move a heat sink, or maybe I want to add another fan. Well, we'll usually start with that one main problem to show you how to set that up. And then we'll do a bunch of spin-off problems to show you, the best practices and tips and tricks along the way on how to do those other condition or geometry spin-offs. The next one is custom training. Again, our standardized training is great. It teaches you a little bit of everything from a lot of different tools, but sometimes you have some custom needs, or maybe you have a big group that you want to teach, and you want to have it done on site. That's where our custom training really comes into play. So what we do is we take our standard training classes, mostly in the simulation realm, and maybe we need to compress them down into a schedule that meets your guys' needs, or maybe your specific industry or your specific problem that you want to solve. And we can customize it for pretty much anything that you might have an idea about. So for some examples that I put up here, again, running them online or at your site. Sometimes people want them shorter. Sometimes they want to push them out. Some people want them to only be lecture style or maybe only hands-on. We can do a lot of things to customize it specifically for your needs. And the last one on the list I have is general consulting. It's basically the catfish of our consulting. It covers all the different needs that you might have. We build custom solutions. We customize options that we already have. Pretty much anything that you can come up with, we'll find some way to help you out with that. A couple examples that I have here are that we've done up to now are, a doctor on call type support. Customer maybe is in the design phase. They have their guys working 24 hours a day, and they just need a lifeline, just like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. They just want to be able to call somebody and ask them questions. Well, we've done that for people before. Same thing is coming on site and doing over-the-shoulder type training. Just working with you as you're working through your day, answering questions, working with you on problems, talking to you about what you might need to do or what you might need to do next. And then again, other types of things like unstructured training or question and answer sessions, and even, being with you when you're doing physical testing so you can, kind of match up how SOLIDWORKS simulation matches up to your physical testing and how to make those two things work together. So again, lots of different options, lots of different ways that we can help you with those types of problems. So how does this all work? Well, I always start to talk about the process of our analysis consulting here. So again, pretty much everything starts with a discovery call. So the discovery call, we talk about what your problem is, what your goals are in your analysis. Maybe we review your SOLIDWORKS assembly over a GoToMeeting. Sometimes we even talk about failures that you've seen in the field or physical testing you've already had. We try and gather as much information as we can. And usually what we're trying to do is we're trying to answer the next question you're going to have, rather than just addressing the initial problem that you guys have. We talk about the next problem you're going to have and the next one after that to make sure that the solution that we come up with really covers anything that might come up from this analysis perspective. From there, we take all that information and we go back and we really put together a scope. And the scope tells us, how long is it going to take us to solve the problem? What is it going to cost? What's the steps that we're going to take to solve the problem? What is the analysis going to look like? What are the outputs going to be? To make sure that everything that you guys have asked for is exactly what you're going to get in the end. And then once we work through that, maybe a couple revisions, we eventually get you guys to sign off on the work and we get started. And that's where really the magic happens. We go off, we solve this problem. And in this service phase, there's actually a lot of things that happen. It's not just us going off solving problems and sending you a PDF at the end saying, here's what the results are. It's usually a very interactive process. We want to get you involved to make sure you understand what this analysis means, how the software was set up to run the analysis, the assumptions that might be involved in it, to make sure you have a full picture of what's happening so you can make the best design decisions. Once we get to that phase, usually we have provided you some results. Maybe we've come back and extended the project and run some different design iterations or some additional trend studies or done some optimization. Once we've done that, we'll deliver everything to you guys for your final review. And then finally, we'll get sign off on the scope. So that's really the analysis consulting services process in a nutshell. But the other questions that often come up are, how do you guys bill for these projects? What kind of things do you do in that respect? Well, again, we're really flexible. We work with you guys to determine what you guys have from a budget, make sure the scope matches your guys' budget, make sure it matches your needs. But really the two ways that we solve these problems are project-based. meaning we'll take the scope that you guys have and put together a price for that scope. And the other one is when the scope isn't really well defined, we can also solve these problems on an hourly basis. So you basically just bill for the time that is involved in setting up and running the problems and reporting and delivering results to you. Next thing is people ask, well, what does it cost? I would say the cost is based on the complexity of the problem, the number of analyses that you need to be run, and really it comes down to rates that are competitive with the rest of the scope of consultants that are out there. So we do everything we can, again, to make sure that you get what you need regarding your analysis and your needs. And the last thing is, how long does it take? Well, usually most analyses, we say, take about 10 business days. A lot of times we deliver a lot sooner than that. More complex analyses maybe takes a little bit longer than that. But again, if you have something that's really immediate, we do also offer a priority service to get those problems solved a lot quicker. Basically, Chris and I will work as fast as we can and overnight if we need to get those analyses to you so you guys can make your design decisions quicker. So as we move forward here, we start talking about, well, how do I know what really fits my needs? Something I kind of came up with is this idea of a knowledge pyramid. There's a lot of different services that are available from Hawkridge Systems, and we get this question a lot as well. What things really match what I need? So in this knowledge pyramid, it starts off with really general things, then it goes to things that are available through subscription, some standard services that we offer, and then finally these specialized services that we start talking about. As we go up on the knowledge pyramid, we start getting an increasing level of focus on your specific application, and also an increasing return on your investment versus the time that you have to invest in the problem. So when we start at the bottom, there's really two things that everybody has access to. One is the product documentation. The documentation that comes with the SOLIDWORKS simulation tools is pretty good. It shows you all the equations, it shows you all the assumptions, it shows you how to do things. It's pretty good. I've used a lot of different tools. It's probably best in class for the simulation tools that are out there. And there's a lot of other online resources. YouTube is great. Forums are great. There's a lot of places that you can get information. But again, a lot of the time it isn't very specific to your application. And usually you spend a lot more time digging up that information and figuring out what matches your problem to really match it up to what you're doing. As you move up the pyramid, we get into what's offered in our subscription services. So if you've been to our night schools, you know the kind of stuff that we do. We did one on simulation, I think last year. It was really awesome. We also have our own internal knowledge base, webinar Wednesdays like you're watching today, and also access to your technical support. So right in the middle of the pyramid, you're starting to get closer to your specific application. You can ask your questions. And again, there's less time involved and still getting a lot more return on things. Again, moving a little bit further, we get into our standard training. Again, you're getting more and more closer to your application. Maybe it's on simulation specifically. You're getting a lot more return for it. And then at the very top, we start talking about our analysis consulting services with consulting at the very top. It's specific to your application. The time invested is you telling us what type of analysis that you want to run. And in the end, what you get back is the results that you need to be able to make design decisions. The other way to look at this is how often you might need something. So if you're doing something, if you have an analysis that you need to do every day, there's going to be a different service that matches your needs versus if you don't need it very often. The other thing that usually comes into play is where you are in the schedule. If you guys are way early in the preliminary design side of things, your needs are significantly different than when you're on schedule or ahead of schedule or behind schedule. So when we kind of put all these things together, we start looking at what service could kind of meet your needs. So first one is, if it's something you need to do every day, but you're on schedule or maybe behind schedule a little bit, you really need a service that matches your specific needs. And that's where mentoring would come into play. If you're a little bit ahead of schedule, you can probably get away with our standard training or custom training, because you have a little bit more time to work, a little bit more time to spend and get some experience. You don't need results kind of right away. When we get kind of behind schedule or we're on schedule and there's something we're not doing very often, that's where consulting really comes into play. That's some of the places where people start to outsource things because they don't have the time. They're not really doing it that often. I was talking to somebody earlier today. They said, if you don't use it, you lose it. Well, that's true. It doesn't matter if you're driving a car, playing golf, or using SOLIDWORKS simulation. That's another place that consulting would really fit well. And again, if you're ahead of schedule and it's not something you do very frequently, give us a call. Let's talk about it. All these services that we've talked about today really fit into that category. We'll find something that makes a good match for you. So with that, I'm kind of at the end of what I have for talking about our analysis consulting services. Myself and the other guys will be online to answer any questions you have. My contact information will be at the end. But I did want to talk about a couple things from a promotion perspective that might help you kind of move forward or try some of our services. So one of the things that's pretty awesome is our Hawk Value Gold package. It combines software and also some services and some training all in one group. And what it allows you to get access to is 4 hours of our general analysis consulting. So again, we'll work with you one-on-one, talk about your problem, work you through kind of the first problems that you might have, talk to you about how to use the software to solve your problem. It's a really good introduction to how to use SOLIDWORKS simulation. Something I think is pretty unique for our consulting services is we're going to offer you 25% of the consulting fees as cash back towards a license purchase. So, if you're in a situation right now, you need to get an analysis done, no problem. We can take that on, get that problem solved for you. And then if you decide down the line that you really want to bring that analysis in-house, no problem. We'll actually offer you 25% of those consulting fees back towards that license purchase. And then to add on top of that is you obviously want to take some training. You want to get some mentoring on that problem. Well, we'll offer you 15% if you kind of mix and match those training and mentoring together in one bundle at one time. And I kind of mentioned down here is the all-inclusive consulting package. We've done this a couple of different times. Is generally we have a problem, a customer with an analysis problem. They want to bring the software in-house, but they need it done right away. Well, that's where we can help you out with like an all-inclusive package. We'll run you an analysis consulting project. We'll get you guys the software. We'll get you guys the training, and we'll get you guys the mentoring, all as one big package to help you guys out. It's really effective, really helpful. Just give us a call and we can help you out and figure out what the best thing is for you. And kind of summarize things, close things out. Again, our analysis consulting services, we have lots of different options. If you guys have an idea, give me a call. We'll find something that works for you guys. Covers all the different simulation tools. Static analysis, no problem. Nonlinear analysis, no problem. Flow, plastics, you name it, we solve those types of problems. Again, no problem too big, too small, too simple, or too complicated. If it's analysis that you need, it's something we can help you out with. Our real goal here is to provide you solutions to your design challenges in an efficient way, in a cost-effective way. So with that, throw some contact information up. If you are interested in simulation software, there are a bunch of deals going on right now, and I would definitely give your sales rep a call if that's something you're interested in. For the analysis services, my contact information is there. If you're just getting ready to start, everything is free until we kind of get to a project actually being defined. So free consultation on what the best solution is for you. We have more information on our website.